people who has already opened WhatsApp and discovered that Nigerian politics has taken over your phone again. Don't worry, we haven't even started. This is Oye's Thoughts right here on Citizen FM 93.7 Abuja. And this morning, I want us to think about tomorrow. Tomorrow, I say, not next month, not next year, tomorrow. Because tomorrow, Wednesday, August 19th, 2026, Nigeria's political campaign season for the 2027 general elections officially gets underway. And from tomorrow, the political temperature in this country is going to rise. The politicians will have a bigger microphone in their hands. The parties will become more visible. The campaign messages will become more aggressive. The rallies will begin to gather momentum. The billboards will multiply. The promises will become elaborate. And our phones are about to become political battlegrounds. WhatsApp groups will explode. Facebook will become a campaign office. TikTok surely will become a rally ground. And X will become a political boxing ring. Everybody will have a candidate. Everybody will have an opinion. And everybody will tell you why their candidate is the best thing that ever happened to Nigeria. But before the noise begins tomorrow, perhaps we should take a moment today to ask ourselves, what exactly are we getting ourselves into? Nigeria currently has 22 registered political parties. 22, I say. But here's the thing. Having 22 political parties does not mean that all 22 have the capacity to genuinely compete for the presidency. Some have national structures, some have regional strength, some have powerful personalities, some have ideological appeal, some have money, some have experienced politicians, others have passionate supporters, but have very little beyond a name and a logo. And that is why tomorrow's campaign takeoff is very important, because the 2027 election is no longer some distant political conversation. Tomorrow, and I say tomorrow, it becomes a full-blown electoral contest. And on Citizen Speak with Oyi, we want to look beyond the noise. We want to look beyond the party colors. We want to look beyond the campaign slogans. Yes, we want to look beyond the emotional arguments. We want to ask relevant and critical questions. Which parties can actually shape the 2027 presidential election? And perhaps, even more importantly, what exactly are Nigerians voting for? Are we voting for political parties? Are we voting for personalities? Are we voting for policies? Are we voting for competence? Or are we simply voting against the person we don't like his face? That is the conversation. Let's start with the obvious one. Very soon on Citizen Speak with Oyi. So this morning, on Oyi's Thoughts that will lead us into Citizen Speak with Oyi, I leave you with one question ahead of tomorrow's campaign takeoff. 22 political parties may be registered, but how many can genuinely shape the 2027 presidential contest? And perhaps the bigger question, are Nigerians choosing political parties, personalities, or simply voting against whoever they don't want? You know, we're going to dig into that this morning. We're going to compare the major political players. We are going to examine their strengths, their weaknesses, their structures, their alliances, their personalities, their voter bases, and their chances. No party colors, no blind loyalty, no unnecessary insults, just politics, just questions, and hopefully some honest answers. This is Oyi's Thoughts before we go into the main show. And in just a moment, we open the microphone for the main conversation because this is your microphone. I am just holding it for you. Citizens Speak with Oyi will come live shortly. And when it starts, let's all be part of it.
Nigeria. Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, our people. This now your voice, this now your platform. Citizens speak with Oyi. The people's mic.
Let the citizens speak.
Wake up this morning. Another brand new day, headlines everywhere, but waiting people really say, from village to the city, from market to office gate, every voice get value, together we shape our fate.
Stand up, speak out,
your opinion matter,
join us together.
Now our future, we the build.
Citizens speak, citizens speak.
Now the people's mind today.
Citizens speak.
Make your voice show the way.
Together we go reason, together we go stand.
One Nigeria, building a better land.
Citizens speak.
With Oyi.
Let the citizens speak. Let the citizens speak.
Talk economy, talk security, education, healthcare, justice for everybody, young and old together. Every tribe, every tongue. When citizens unite, our nation grows strong.
No fear, no silence. Your voice will change tomorrow. Bring your ideas, bring solutions. Together we go grow.
Calling, send message.
What's that? Make your voice fly.
Citizens speak with Oyi. Now where the people they shine.
Citizens speak, citizens speak.
Where citizens drive the conversation.
Citizens speak, citizens speak.
Together we build the nation. Facts first.
Citizens next.
The people's mind.
Let the citizens speak, citizens speak.
With Oyi every weekday morning.
The people's mind. The people's mind.
With Oyi. Every weekday morning.
Citizens speak.
With Oyi.
Tomorrow, Nigeria's 2027 election campaign officially begins. But beyond the rallies, posters, social media graphics, political endorsements, and beautiful speeches, which political parties genuinely have the structure, the candidate, money, message, coalition, geographical spread, and voter connection to win? Because in Nigeria, having a popular candidate is not the same thing as having a winning political machine. And having a political machine is not the same thing as having the people. So this morning, Citizens Speak with Oyi is asking the uncomfortable question. If Nigerians voted tomorrow, which party would actually be in the strongest position to win and why? Good morning once again. Good morning and welcome to this morning's edition of Citizen Speak with Oyo 93.7 FM, Citizen FM, from the fourth floor of the Labour House in the heart of Abuja. Good morning to every citizen listening to us from Wuse, Gariki, Meitama, Kubu Anyanya, Karu, Jukwe, Lugbe, Kuje, Gwagwalada, Buari, Kwali, and every corner of the Federal Capital Territory. And good morning to everyone listening to us beyond Abuja, across Nigeria, and wherever Citizen 93.7 FM reaches you. This is Citizen Speak with Oyi, and this morning we are standing at the door of something very huge. Tomorrow, Wednesday, August 19th, 2026, the campaign window for the 2027 presidential and National Assembly elections will officially open. That means the political temperature in Nigeria is about to change. The billboards will multiply, the convoy will become longer, the rallies will become louder, the promises will become bigger surely, the social media battles will become nastier, political defections will become more dramatic, and every politician who has been quietly preparing for months will suddenly tell us that he or she has the solution to Nigeria's problems. But Citizen Speak is not interested in the noise. We want to look underneath the noise because the Nigerian voter has heard promises before. We have heard renewed hope. We have heard change. We have heard power to the people. We have heard take back Nigeria. We have heard a new Nigeria. We have heard practical governance. We have heard everything. But this morning, we are asking a very simple question. Who has what it takes to win? Not who has the loudest supporters online, not who has the most attractive slogan, not who can fill a stadium, not who has the biggest convoy, not who has the political architecture to actually win the president. Exactly what we are looking for. Who has that political architecture to actually win the presidency? And perhaps, even more importantly, who has the capacity to win enough National Assembly seats to govern? Because Nigeria does not elect a president in isolation. You need senators. You need members of the House of Representatives. You need governors. You need state lawmakers. You need people at the grassroots. And you need voters who are willing to come out and defend their choice. So this morning, we are putting the major political platforms under the microscope. We are going to look at them critically, with the eyes of the elders. We will look at the ruling APC. We will look at the ADC opposition coalition. We will look at Peter Obi's NDC. We will examine the wounded but still dangerous PDP. We will look at the Labour Party, the APM and Seyi Makinde de facto, the SDP, the NNP, and what remains of the Kwankwansiya political machine, APGA and AAC. And while we're doing that, we'll ask another question. Is 2027 already a two-horse race, a three-horse race, or could Nigeria surprise all of us again? Stay with me. This is Citizen Speak with Oyi.
Before we ask what our nation can do for us, let us ask ourselves what we can do for our nation. Because a better Nigeria is not built by leaders alone. It is built by everyone of us.
Yeah, I know that feeling when you're watching from the sidelines. It feels easy like this beat is on the timeline. I see a nation with a million dreams in sight. Pains from the past and the future sight. Media misinformation, Hurricane Katrina. It could make sense if you talk true when you see them. Mazi from the east and even Malam from Katsina. Propaganda flying higher than planes on the tarmac. Before you share that story from your phone, make you check them. We didn't blame the system, we're trying to blame the man. But every revolution, it's gotta start with a plan. With insightful comments burning harder than propane.
Start with me, start with you. Cause our tomorrow depends on what we do. Nigeria, Nigeria, for all to see. The change begins with you and me. With you and me. The change begins with you and me. Oh yeah. Start with me, start with you. Cause our tomorrow depends on what we do. Nigeria, Nigeria, for all to see. The
Okay. Yeah. So tell me why you wanna turn the brother against another. It's like you're praying for deliberate made days for content. A cleaner street starts with a person outside. A better Nigerian with a person inside. Don't wait for power before you try to make an impact. Don't think about the money when you're trying to give the love back. Your little kindness, if it's inspire generation. Let's start to think about the things we could do for our nation. We don't be enemies, we're just from different tribes, different languages, same sunrise. From Lagos to Makurdi, Kano to Calabar. I know they see my neighbor like Ojuju Calabar. Yeah, know they build walls with the rumors and the lies. When you could build the bridges with the truth and advice. Nigeria no big guy name sitting on the map. Nigerians, good people, great nation, that's a fact. Yeah, see I choose hope, why you want make I dey fear? See I choose unity when division appear. Education, integrity, courage and the vision. All your kids are back, thank God for the mission.
Start with you, cause our tomorrow depends on what we do. Nigeria rise for all to see. The change begins with you and me. The change begins with you and me. Start with you, cause our tomorrow depends on what we do. Nigeria, for all to see. The change begins with you and me. With you and me. The change begins with you and me. It begins with you and me.
This is
Before we ask what our nation
This
can do
is
for us.
Citizen FM 93.7. If you are not tuned to Citizen FM 93.7 Abuja, you are certainly missing. Keep your dial fixed here.
Yes, welcome back. Before we start naming winners and losers this morning, let us establish something very important. Nigeria currently has a crowded political field. INEC has published the particulars of 19 presidential candidates for the 2027 election. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the APC candidate. Atiku Abubakar is flying the ADC flag. Peter Obi is a candidate of the NDC. The PDP has Senator Sandy Ono on the published list. Omoyele Sowore is the African Action Congress candidate. Donald Duke is with the PRP. Adewale Adebayo is with the SDP. Seyi Makinde is with the APM, and there are several others. But let us be realistic. 19 candidates do not mean 19 serious contenders for the presidency. Please don't mind my language. Nigeria's electoral history tells us that as election day approaches, voters tend to consolidate. Money consolidates, political elites consolidate, regional interests consolidate, religious interests consolidate. In fact, governors also consolidate, business interests do same, they consolidate, and sometimes voters simply decide. I like candidate A, but candidate B has the better chance of defeating candidate C. That is strategic voting, and strategic voting could become one of the biggest stories of 2027. So our ranking this morning is based on 6 things. That's what we are looking at. This is not any official ranking. This is what we think is playing out, and this is our own opinion. You can look at it, respond to it, call us, give us your opinion, speak your mind. But we are going ahead with what we are saying. 1, structure. Can whichever party that will come be able to operate across Nigeria? Number 2, we are going to look at the candidate's strength. Can the presidential candidate attract votes beyond his home base? 3, coalition strength. Can the party bring together people who previously belonged to different political camps? 4, grassroots machinery. Can it move people from WhatsApp groups to actual polling units? And 5, narrative. Does the party have a compelling answer to the Nigerian question? And 6, electoral mathematics. Can the party actually win enough states to satisfy the constitutional requirements for the presidency? Because in Nigeria, getting the largest number of votes is not the whole story. You need the required spread. That is where the real mathematics begin. Yes, let us start with the elephant in the room, the All Progressives Congress, APC. If you ask the most brutally practical question, which party has the strongest institutional machinery today? The answer is probably the All Progressives Congress, APC. And there is no point pretending otherwise. APC controls the presidency. It has a formidable network of governors and lawmakers. It has enormous national visibility. It has access to experienced political operators, political gladiators that have already, earned their pips. It has access to structures down to wards and local government areas. It has been campaigning indirectly for a very long time, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is already the party's presidential candidate. He is seeking a second term with Kashim Shettima as his running mate. That gives APC something every opposition party would love to have: certainty. The ruling party is not searching for a presidential candidate. No, they are not doing that. The candidate is known, the running mate is known. The administration has a record it can defend, and it also has a record it must defend. That is the strength and the weakness of the incumbency. APC can say, look at what we have done over the years. The opposition surely will respond to them. Look at Nigeria. We are suffering. Nigerians are there to attest to it. Nigerians are suffering. They are crying. They are bitter. Now, let's be honest. APC's greatest strength is not necessarily popularity. Its greatest strength is organization. Politics is organization. Who has the ward agents? Who knows the polling units? Who can mobilize? Who can monitor? Who can communicate? Who can raise resources? Who can deploy? Who can negotiate? APC has an advantage in all these areas, but there is a warning sign: Osun. Just days ago, APC lost the Osun governorship election to Ademola Adeleke, and what makes that result interesting is that APC itself has acknowledged internal divisions, disagreement over its candidate, and complacency as factors in the defeat. That is very important, because if the largest political machine in Nigeria can lose a state election because its own people are divided, then the lesson for 2027 is obvious. Structure without unity can become a beautiful machine that refuses to move. That's exactly what it will become. Wonderful car, looks nice, painted, everything on point, but no engine. APC therefore enters 2027 as the party to beat, but it is also the party with the most to defend. They have to defend why the economy is the way it is. They have to defend why food prices have refused to come down. They have to defend why people can't sleep with their two eyes closed. We have to sleep with our eyes open. They have to defend unemployment. They have to defend why electricity is still erratic. They have to defend the cost of living and the public perception of government performance. The APC campaign will therefore be a referendum on the Tinubu administration. If voters believe the reforms are beginning to work, APC surely will gain. If voters believe the reforms have imposed too much pain without sufficient relief, opposition parties will gain. That is the battlefield we are looking at. Now, don't forget, you can be part of this show. You can tell us what you think about those parties that are ready to go into the 2027 campaigns from tomorrow, 19th of August, 2026. You can call us on 0903 2229797. You can call us on 0903 2229797 or WhatsApp message on 0818 2222205. 0818-2222-205. You can be part of this show. You can contribute. You can tell us what you think about the campaigns that will be starting tomorrow and your impression about the political parties that we are looking at to be part of that contest. Now, at number 2, we have the African Democratic Congress, ADC. Now, let us talk about the most interesting opposition experiment Nigeria has had up till this moment, the African Democratic Congress. ADC is no longer simply another small political party. No, not at all. The party has become the platform around which a major opposition coalition has been assembled. Atiku Abubakar is the presidential candidate, and Rotimi Amechi, the former governor of Rivers State, is his running mate. And the broader coalition has attracted political heavyweights from different backgrounds: former governors, former ministers, former legislators, former party leaders, people who have fought each other politically in the past. That is precisely why ADC is fascinating. Its strength is not just about ADC. Its strength is the possibility of combining political structures that previously operated separately. Well, think about the political calculation. Atiku brings national experience and especially strong networks in the north. Amechi brings South-South political experience and a history of national mobilization. The coalition brings people with relationships across the PDP, the APC, and other opposition platforms that are also very relevant. If those people genuinely work together, ADC becomes a serious threat. But here is the problem. Coalitions look beautiful on paper. Coalitions are difficult in real life. That's the reality. You know, who gets what? Who controls the party? Who gets the Senate ticket? Who gets the governorship ticket? Who controls state structures? Who gets campaign appointments? Who gets access to resources? Who becomes minister if the coalition wins? You know, who controls the National Assembly? And perhaps the biggest question, will the supporters of all these politicians actually vote together? Because elite agreement is not automatically voter agreement. That is the ADC test. ADC has another problem. It has experienced defections and internal disputes. Some prominent lawmakers have left the party, showing that coalition politics can produce both expansion and instability. But in all this, if ADC can settle its internal questions, build a disciplined campaign, and present itself not simply as an anti-Tinubu movement, but as a credible government in waiting, then it becomes very serious. The ADC question is therefore not whether does Atiku have name recognition. No, he has, of course, he does have that. The question is, can ADC turn elite opposition into mass electoral power? That is what we are going to watch out for, and we believe that every party is working towards victory. Now we have to look at number 3 on our list, the Nigeria Democratic Congress, NDC, and its candidate, Peter Obi. Let's be very clear. Peter Obi is no longer contesting on the Labour Party. He's now the presidential candidate of the NDC. He contested under the Labour Party in the last election, and now he's contesting under the NDC. His running mate is Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. That ticket alone changes the conversation because Peter Obi brings a Southeast and a strong national youth-oriented following. Kwankwaso brings a significant political network in Kano and the wider north. This is not merely about two politicians. It's about two voter ecosystems. It can genuinely combine those ecosystems. NDC could become one of the most consequential new political platforms in Nigeria's history. But there is a major question. Can enthusiasm become organization? Peter Obi demonstrated enormous voter appeal in 2023, but 2027 surely is not 2023. The challenge is bigger. It is not enough to have young people online. It is not enough to have millions of supporters on social media. The question is, how many polling units are you going to cover? How many agents do you have? How many local coordinators are working on ground? How many people will actually wake up at 5 a.m. on election day? How many will stay at the polling unit to make sure their votes count? How many will monitor results? How many will defend the votes? That is the difference between a movement and an electoral machine. And there is another question. Can P2B persuade enough voters outside the Southeast region and the Southern region? Can Kwankwaso persuade enough voters outside Kano and the Northwest? Can the two political traditions truly merge? Because, let's be sincere, Nigeria's presidency requires geographical breadth. The NDC's biggest opportunity is therefore also its biggest challenge, turning a political, regional and generational appeal into a truly national coalition. Well, if this succeeds, we have a different election. If it fails, NDC could win millions of votes and still lose the presidency. That is the brutal mathematics of Nigerian politics. You can still be part of this discussion on 0903-222-9797, 0903-222-9797, 0818-2222-205. This morning we are looking at the viability of the parties, their preparedness, what they are made up of, and who are their candidates. What are their chances going into 2027? That's what we are looking at this morning. We'll want to hear from you. I am just here holding the mic for you because the microphone belongs to you, the citizen. And now the party that desperately needs to remember who it used to be, the People's Democratic Party, PDP. For years, PDP was the natural alternative to APC. It ruled Nigeria for 16 years. It has governors, it has senators, it has members of the House of Representatives. It was deep grassroots network. It has very long political history. It has experienced politicians. But PDP is facing perhaps its most serious identity crisis since the party was founded. Different factions have been fighting over leadership and control. One faction has produced Senator Sunday Onoh as its presidential candidate. Another faction has attempted to advance former President Goodluck Jonathan. This situation, however, has generated serious uncertainty around the party's national direction. And this is where the PDP problem becomes painful. A political party cannot spend the campaign season explaining who its real chairman is. It cannot spend the election period arguing about which faction has the right to nominate candidates, because while you are in court, another party is on the street. While you're holding press conferences, other parties are holding rallies and moving on. While you're fighting over the party secretariat, another party is building polling unit structures. The PDP therefore has something extraordinary though. A huge inherited political structure, but diminishing political coherence. Can it recover? Can the party wake up and stand on its feet again? Yes. Well, never underestimate the party. This party has survived many crises. It has governors, it has experienced politicians, it understands elections, but the clock is ticking. And the PDP must answer one question before Nigerians can take it seriously again. Who are you in 2027? Are you the old PDP? Are you a coalition vehicle? Are you an opposition party? Are you working with ADC? Are you working with NDC? Are you supporting another presidential candidate? Or are you trying to revive the PDP brand on its own until Nigerians get a clear answer from PDP? Well, the party remains politically important but strategically uncertain.
On Nigeria, building a better land. With Ori.
let's talk about Labour Party. This is perhaps one of the most emotional stories of the 2027 election because Labour Party went from being a relatively modest political platform to becoming the vehicle of one of the most powerful presidential movements Nigeria has seen in recent years. Peter Obi transformed Labour Party's political visibility in 2023, but Peter Obi has now left. That changes everything. The Labour Party has adopted Chibuzo Okereke as its presidential candidate. The party still has members, it still has lawmakers, it still has political recognition, but it has lost the man who gave it enormous presidential visibility. So Labour Party enters 2027 with a very different challenge. Can it retain the Obi movement and their voters? That is a huge question, and my answer is probably not all of them. Some voters followed Obi, for his personality. Some followed the Labour Party because of the ideology. Some followed the idea of a third force. Those are three different things. Labour's opportunity is to reinvent itself. It can say we are bigger than one man, but that is much easier to say than to prove. The party must build a fresh national narrative. It must develop its own grassroots machinery. It must retain its lawmakers. It must work hard to make sure it resolves internal disputes, and it must convince voters that the Labour brand still means something beyond Peter Obi. Otherwise, 2027 may expose the difference between a party and a personality.
Innocent people go they run, pick over. North and south go they turn on each other. But instead to fight ourselves, make we fight Ebola. Instead of fighting corruption, making no day. Some people not to do make Niger no day. And running everywhere. So when seeds of this God in the air. No matter what thing happen, them I just don't care. Most of them know they really live for here. They don't come back again this year. But no fear. I hear them say this is a do or die affair. But we don't want nobody to come scatter ground for care. Oh, not fight, that's what we want in this year. In this election time, we want a peaceful atmosphere. Hey, instead of the first politics, that we don't see Shabba. The only thing we concern them with the rubber. All this complaint, I don't live fed up. We don't travel that lane, see where we end up. So which kind of girl you want to see? How I want make it be? Share the night down with things they walk. Guy, join hand to let you know go. The youth of today, we got a very big say. It is our life, it is our future. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Product of peace, not war. Vote, not fight. Election, not the war. Because when you scatter, now innocent people will die. One love. Now super glue, now paradise. Now everything is a big country fast. So when you come, Nigeria. Thank you very much. The world is enough of the words. Shine your eyes.
Democracy isn't a spectator sport. It's a conversation. And every weekday morning, that conversation starts here. Citizens Speak with Oyi, where the issues shaping your community, the Federal Capital Territory Abuja, and Nigeria get the honest airtime they deserve. No grandstanding, just straight talk, real voices, and the questions that matter. Join Oyi, weekdays 8 to 9 a.m., only on Citizens FM 937 Abuja. Because when citizens speak, Nigeria listens.
You're welcome back, and this morning we have some messages streaming in. And the first message we're going to take is from Abdul Rahman in Wuye. He said, "Good morning, Oye. I think APC has a huge advantage going into 2027 because they have something many other parties don't have, which is an established political machinery. They have the presidency, governors, lawmakers, and structures across the country. But I also think there is a danger in confusing political structure with public support. At the end of the day, Nigerians are not structures. People are asking a very simple question. Has my life improved? That for me is where the real battle will be." Thank you very much, Abdul Rahman, and good morning. You know, you have touched one of the most important distinctions in Nigerian electoral politics: institutional strength versus voter sentiment. Yes, machinery matters. It matters enormously. A party with governors, lawmakers, councillors, ward structures, financial resources, and experienced political operators starts an election with an advantage. But machinery cannot vote. People vote. And this is where the APC's incumbency becomes both an advantage and a burden. The advantage is access to structures and political visibility. The burden is accountability. When you're the governing party, you cannot campaign entirely on what you intend to do. You're also judged on what you have already done or what you have not done. So the question for 2027 should not simply be who has the biggest structure. It should be who has that structure delivered. Because a political structure that can mobilize 10,000 people to a rally but cannot convince an ordinary family that tomorrow will be better may discover that crowd size is not necessarily electoral strength. That is the distinction voters must understand and make it clear to politicians.
Citizens speak with Oyi.
You can be part of this show. Let's hear from you. 0903-2229-797. That's for calls. 0903-2229-797. Or you can send us a WhatsApp message on 0818-2222-205. 0818-2222-205. I think we have a caller now. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning. Please, your name and where you're calling us from. Oh, we lost that caller. Thank you for calling. Call again. We are waiting for your calls. 0903 2229-797. 0903 2229-797. You can send us WhatsApp messages on 0818-2222-205. 0818-2222-205. We'll go back to the messages, but for now, let's look at number 6 on our list. Now let's talk about a party that many Nigerians may not have considered a presidential heavyweight 6 months ago, the Allied People's Movement, APM. And its candidate is not just anybody, it is the Oyo State Governor, Seyi Makinde. Makinde has emerged as the APM presidential candidate and has positioned himself as a practical governance alternative. Now, Why does Makinde matter? Because he's offering something different. Not a former president, not a former vice president, not an opposition activist, a sitting governor with an actual record of governance. That gives him something candidates need, a performance argument. He can say, judge me by what I have done, and that could resonate with voters who are tired of ideological warfare. But Makinde has a huge national problem. Oyo State is not Nigeria. Governance popularity in one state does not automatically translate into a national electoral coalition. He needs a northern strategy. He needs southeast penetration. He needs south-south partnerships. He needs serious national structures, and he needs time. Most importantly, the interesting possibility is that Makinde may become more important as a coalition player than as a standalone presidential contender. If opposition leaders begin negotiating seriously, a candidate with executive experience, a relatively pragmatic image, and a strong Southwest base can become extremely valuable. So do not dismiss APM. It may not be the largest party, but it could become one of the most interesting bargaining platforms in the election going forward. At our number 7 is the Social Democratic Party, SDP. And here is a candidate who may not have the biggest political structure, but understands that Nigeria is hungry for ideas. His name is Adewale Adebayo. His campaign has increasingly focused on policy and debate. He has attempted to distinguish himself from the conventional political rally. That strategy has merit because Nigerians are tired. Nigerians are tired. Nigerians are tired. They want to know exactly how you will create those jobs. They want to know exactly how you will reduce inflation, how you will fix electricity, how you will secure the country. Well, I think we have a caller here. Hold up. Hello, good morning. Oh, we lost that call again. Yes, we are talking about the candidate of the SDP, the Social Democratic Party, Adewale Adebayo. That's the person we are talking about before. Okay, another call is coming in. Hello, good morning. What's happening this morning? Well, like we were saying, people are no more interested in a lot of stories. They want to get the facts of how you're going to get to solve the problems of Nigerians. How will you reform the police? How will you secure the country? How will you make healthcare affordable? How will you make education work? And most importantly, where is the money going to come from? Adebayo's strength is that he can speak directly to the policy. His weakness is structure. We have to be blunt with these things. Nigeria's elections are not won by television debates alone. You need people at polling units. You need agents. You need local government coordinators. You need state-level machinery. You need cash. You need political alliances. So SDP can shape the debate even if it struggles to win the presidency. And that is very key. Not every party has to win the presidency to influence an election. Some parties move the national conversation, Some become coalition partners, some win legislative seats, some become bargaining platforms. So some of them actually produce the ideas that larger parties later adopt. I believe that SDP could play such a role. Let's take some messages while we're waiting for the calls. But let's remind you again, the call number is 0903-2229-797, 0903-2229-797, and for messages, 0818-2222-205. 0818-2222-205. And it's still Citizen Speak with Oyi. Let's hear from Jennifer at Galadimawa. Oyi, good morning. I honestly think the Nigerian voter is becoming more practical. People are looking at their pockets. If food is expensive, rent is going up, and transportation is becoming harder to afford, you cannot simply come with a beautiful manifesto and expect people to clap. Tell me what you will actually change. Tell me how your policies will affect my household. That is the kind of campaign I want to see. Jennifer has brought the conversation down from the political podium to the kitchen table, and that is exactly where politics should eventually end up. Manifestos are very important, but Nigerians don't eat manifestos. A manifesto must answer a basic question. What will this policy do to the life of an ordinary citizen? If a candidate promises economic growth, tell us how that growth will translate into jobs. If you promise agricultural transformation, tell us how it will reduce food prices. If you promise infrastructure, tell us how it will reduce transportation costs. If you promise reforms, tell us who will pay the immediate cost of those reforms and when citizens should expect the benefits to roll in. The 2027 election should therefore be a contest of competing solutions, not competing slogans. And journalists, we must also do better. We cannot simply report that candidate A promised 10 million jobs. We should ask how. How does he want to do that? With what funding? In which sectors is he going to do that? Over what period of time? What happens if the target is missed? That is accountability. And that is what journalism should be. Yes, now we are going to look at another party on our number 8 list, the NNPP, the New Nigeria People's Party. This is another interesting case. In 2023, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso gave NNPP something it had never enjoyed before: national presidential visibility. He brought the Kwankwansiya movement. He won significant support, particularly in Kano and parts of the north. But now, Kwankwaso is Peter Obi's running mate under NDC. That changes the NNPP equation dramatically. The party is still there preparing for the election, including uploading hundreds of National Assembly candidates and a presidential placeholder. But the real political question is, how much of the Kwankwansiya structure follows Kwankwaso personally and how much remains with NNPP? That will be fascinating to know, because Nigerian politics is often less about party logos than personalities. A voter may say, I am NNPP, but what does that actually mean? It means the party, or does it mean Kwankwaso? Does it mean Kano politics? Does it mean opposition to APC, or does it mean loyalty to a movement, the Kwankwansiya movement? If NNPP retains its structure, it remains a serious legislative and regional player. If much of its political energy follows Kwankwaso to NDC, like it's obviously going to do, NNPP's national presidential relevance drops sharply. Either way, let's watch Kano. Let's watch the Northwest. Watch what happens to the Kwankwansiya network. It could significantly influence the mathematics of 2027 anyway. Now we have on number 9 a very interesting political party, the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA. For anybody who thinks APGA is irrelevant nationally, I will advise you to look more carefully. APGA has a particularly strong identity in Anambra and parts of the southeast. It has a sitting governor. It has legislative presence. It has a recognizable political brand. And it has already aligned itself with the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for 2027. And this is very significant. It's something that we need to watch. Governor Charles Soludo previously announced APGA's adoption of Tinubu, describing the party as aligned with the APC-led center. Well, so APGA is not really entering the presidential race as a rival to APC. It is potentially entering it as a regional ally, and that matters. That's a political move to study, because presidential elections are increasingly becoming coalition exercises. If APC can consolidate support through alliances with regional parties, it expands its electoral reach. But ABGA must also answer a question from its own base. How do you maintain a distinct ABGA identity while supporting an APC presidential candidate? Well, some people will say it's like a vegetarian vampire. Not me, I didn't say that. That's not a simple question, actually. It's not as simple as it sounds. The party's influence may therefore be greatest in legislative and state level contests, particularly in the Southeast. And do not forget this in a hurry. In a close presidential election, you do not need every party to be a presidential threat. You need alliances. ABGA could therefore matter far more than its presidential vote total might suggest. So ABGA is a party to watch with its alliance with the APC. This is still Citizens Speak with Oyi, and it's interesting to know that our telephone line has been acting up this morning, but the WhatsApp messages are streaming in. So we'll take some of the messages again, and then we'll move on to the last party that we are looking at this morning. We have another message from Zainab in Dutse Alaji. I think we should be careful not to analyze 2027 only from Abuja, Kano, and the wider north have to be part of the conversation. Okay, let me take that again. I think we should be careful not to analyze 2027 only from Abuja, okay? Okay, Kano and the wider north have to be part of the conversation. The Kwankwansia movement has built a very recognizable political identity and a large following. If that political structure becomes part of a wider national arrangement, it could have a significant effect on the numbers. Yes. Thank you very much, Zainab. You're absolutely right about one thing. Abuja is not Nigeria. We sometimes make the mistake of discussing Nigerian politics from the perspective of Abuja's political elite, while forgetting that elections are ultimately decided across thousands of communities. And this is why we need your contributions. We need you to speak. And today you have spoken. You have brought that insight, and it's wonderful. It's important to know that whatever happens in 2027, it will not be decided by just what happens in Abuja. It will cut across every single community in Nigeria. Somto from Kuje says, honestly, I am tired of elections being presented as a choice between the lesser evil and the greater evil. Every election we hear, don't vote for this person because the other person is worse. But when do we start asking who actually deserves our vote? I want to vote for someone because I believe in the person's competence, character, and program, not simply because I'm afraid of another candidate. Somto Chukwu has raised a fundamental question. Thank you very much. There is a difference between voting for something and voting against something. Sometimes voters genuinely have to make difficult choices. That is part of democracy. But if every election becomes a referendum on who we fear rather than a judgment on who we trust, then something is fundamentally wrong. Candidates should be forced to earn votes, not inherit them, not receive them because of ethnicity, not receive them because of religion, not receive them because the opponent is unpopular, and certainly not receive them because a political influencer tells citizens who to support. The voter should ask, what has this person done before? What can this person realistically do? Who are the people surrounding them? What is their record? What are their weaknesses? And perhaps most importantly, what happens if they fail? That is a more mature way of, showing citizenship and responsibility. And now, finally, we're going to look at the African Action Congress, AAC. Omoyele Sowore is not the conventional Nigerian politician. He is an activist. He has spent years criticizing the political establishment, and he is running again. AAC's strength is ideological clarity. You know where Sowore stands. He is anti-establishment. He speaks directly to Nigerians who believe the political class has failed them. He can attract young people, activists, civil society voices, and voters looking for a radical alternative. But the same thing that gives AAC energy also limits his reach. Nigeria is a huge country. A national presidential campaign requires more than passionate supporters. It requires structure. It requires money. It requires alliances. It requires a broad geographical acceptability. It requires the ability to build bridges with people who do not necessarily agree with you or your ideology. AAC can influence the election. It can shape political discourse. It can force issues into the campaign. But winning the presidency will require a scale of expansion that the party has not yet demonstrated. Still, never underestimate any party that can move the conversation. Sometimes a candidate does not win the election, but wins the argument. Now let's leave the political parties for a moment, because parties are not the real voters. People are, and Nigerians are not going into 2027 as the same Nigerians who voted in 2023. This is a different country. The economic experience has changed. It has squeezed the hell out of Nigerians. The cost of living has changed. The value of money has changed. The political mood has changed, and voter expectations have also changed. One of the most important campaign issues will be the economy. Food inflation was reported at 20.31% in July of 2026, even though headline inflation eased to 15.43%. But tell the mother in Kubwa that inflation has moderated. Tell the trader in Gariki such news. Those in Kuje, those in Nyanya suffering, those working hard every day and they are seeing nothing. Tell the young graduate looking for work. People do not experience inflation through a statistical table. They experience it when the 10,000 naira that used to fill a basket now fills a quarter of it. So the APC campaign will have to explain the economic pain, and the opposition will have to explain what it would do differently. The second issue is security. Can Nigerians move freely? Can farmers farm? Can businesses operate? Can children go to school safely? The third issue is unemployment and youth opportunity. The fourth is electricity. The fifth is corruption. The sixth is institutional trust. And then there is the issue that politicians often underestimate: dignity. People want to feel respected by government. They want a government that listens. They want to know that their lives matter. They could become, that they could become something in their own country. These are the things that the people want. Those are the things that they want to see. That could become one of the most powerful emotional issues of 2027, keying into the people's needs. Let us also talk about geography, because Nigeria is not one electoral market. It is several political markets operating at the same time. The Northwest is crucial: Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, Jigawa, Sokoto, Kebbi, and Zamfara. The Northeast is very crucial: Bauchi, Adamawa, Gombe, Yobe, Borno, Taraba. The North Central, very key and crucial. We have Benue, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau, and the FCT. And then the South, the Southwest, the Southeast, the South-South. Every major candidate needs a map, not a slogan. A map, I say. Where are your first 20 states? Where are your second-tier states? Where can you win? Where can you get 25%? Where must you negotiate? That is presidential politics. For APC, the question is whether incumbency can consolidate the North and retain the Southwest while expanding elsewhere. For ADC, the challenge is whether Atiku and Amechi can build a genuinely national coalition. For NDC, the question is whether Obi and Kwankwaso can create a bridge between the Southeast and the Northwest. For PDP, the question is whether the party can survive long enough to become competitive again. For Makinde, the question is whether the APM can turn the Oyo model into a national coalition. That is why 2027 will not be won in Abuja alone. It will be won across the thousands of polling units across the country. this is where it gets interesting, and this is where Citizen Speaks become where the citizens actually speak. You know, it is about us Nigerians, and I want every listener to do something tomorrow. When the campaign begins, don't just ask who is supporting my candidate. Ask what is the candidate promising. Then ask, how will he do it? Where is the money? Where is the timeline? Who will implement it? What laws need to be changed? You know, what institutions need reform? What happens if you fail? And ask candidates about security, jobs, electricity, education, healthcare, everything, restructuring, local government autonomy, police reform, agric, technology, the naira, debt, taxation, and also the question Nigerian politicians often don't like. What will you stop doing? Because government is not only about promising new things. Sometimes good governance means stopping waste, stopping duplication, stopping corruption, stopping political patronage, stopping reckless borrowing, stopping impunity. And Nigerians must also reject one dangerous idea, that your tribe must determine your vote, or your religion, or your political party. Vote for whoever you believe can govern Nigeria right. But demand evidence, demand competence, demand character, demand accountability. And when you vote, protect your vote. Thank you very much for being with me today on Citizen Speak with Oyi. Tomorrow, August 19, the campaign begins. But today, August 18, the Citizen begins the examination. And that's what we have just done. I am Oyi, and I leave you with this. Don't let anybody campaign you out of your common sense. Listen, question, compare, investigate, then decide. Because politicians have the microphone, but the citizens has the vote. And that vote is your power. Good morning, Nigeria. God bless you. God bless Abuja, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria and each and every one of you as you go out today to make a living. Have a great day.
Citizen FM 93.7. If you are not tuned to Citizen FM 93.7 Abuja, you are certainly missing. Keep your dial